Hello and welcome to another LSB film podcast with me, Chris Brooks. I hope everyone's well. Today's guest is somebody that embodies courage in the face of a system that too often just silences truth tellers. Issy Vine was a 999 call handler with the Metropolitan Police when she overheard a colleague describe a rape victim as a slut and made racist and other deeply offensive remarks. She did what integrity demands. She spoke up. At first, the Met dismissed this colleague for gross misconduct, but behind closed doors, that decision was overturned. The offender kept his job, while Issy, the whistleblower, was left isolated, undermined, and ultimately forced to resign. Now she's taking the Met to the tribunal, standing not only for herself, but for every other police officer, every call handler, and every other public servant that has been told to keep quiet for the sake of the institution. She's also founded Speak Up Now UK to support whistleblowers across public services. This is more than her story. It's a story about how we treat victims, about how we protect or fail to protect those who hold power to account, and about whether the largest police force in Britain can ever change. Issy Vine is here with me today, and together we're going to talk about the truth, retaliation, resilience, and what real reform must look like. This is going to be a good one, so let's go.
Are you concerned about all this corruption being rebranded as conspiracy theory? Well, don't you worry. Sit back and relax and join in the conversation with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
So really pleased to have you on the show, and welcome to the show, Issy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
My absolute pleasure. I've really been looking forward to speaking with you today.
Oh,
We're all about exposing the corruption here on this channel, so it's
yeah.
fantastic to have an ex-police lady. Police lady? Do we say police lady? Do we say police
Yeah.
officer?
Well, I wasn't an officer. I was in the control rooms as staff. So police staff, police employee.
Right, okay then.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's cool. So just for those who are new to this, I mean, to be fair, I'm relatively new to this. How did this all start? What happened?
Yeah. I joined the Met in 2020 as COVID started. Was really good for about 2 years or 3 years. And then one day in 23, I sat next to a colleague who said the most shocking comments, called a rape victim a slut, was racist, mocked Sarah Everard, the lady who was abducted, murdered, and raped by a serving police officer, Met police officer, and then followed me after work. And yeah, I never experienced anything like that before in the Met. So I was really shocked and horrified, and I reported it. And when I reported it, it sort of just got worse. Like, I shouldn't even laugh, but I laugh now because it's just ridiculous. But
Basically, you set off the old dominoes.
exactly, the dominoes sort of just crap really from the Met. But I think you know, you never get told to sort of you always sort of get told like, well, if you see wrongdoing, you must like deal with it and like report it, like it's your duty to, but you never really get told how to. So, like I didn't really know how to, and I had to like ask a lot of people how to report this. And then when I did report it, like I wasn't kept in the loop for a few weeks or told what was going on. And then no one, like the guy I'd reported had been told that I'd made a complaint about him, and he'd been given like a welfare officer and stuff because they were worried he might hurt himself. But I had no welfare officer. No one told me what was going on. And then some days, because no one communicated about it, they would put me next to him. And then I'd be like, I can't do that. Like it was just really bad, just failing after failing. But yeah, 6 months went on, and in November 23, he was dismissed at New Scotland Yard for gross misconduct, which I was really proud about because, they were saying, we don't have space for that in the Met, especially with, violence against women and girls and the Casey report, we need to do better. And I was like, oh my God, like, great. Like, you're not just lip service, like you are actually doing what you say. So I was really, really proud and happy, and just really grateful as well that, I don't know, I was believed because I was always conscious of reporting it because, like,
Reporting misconduct in the Met is known to be risky.
it's risky. It's also, yeah, like you get all waves of retaliation.
So what gave you the courage?
Well, I don't know if I had courage, but I just like, just me as a person, like it was just wrong. And I joined the police to deal with people like that. Um, Not to work with people like that. And also like, you know, I'm always the type of person that I just couldn't not report that. Like it was just, the things he said was so horrifying. Courage, I think I just was, and also, I've always been so horrified about scandals and failures of the Met Police, even stemming back into the 70s. And I will refuse to be complicit in any further ones. And I joined to make the police better or contribute to that in some
Mm.
way. So by not reporting that, I would have been complicit in their failures. But yeah, so yeah, they dismissed him, and I was really conscious that they wouldn't believe me because obviously in a control room there's no CCTV. And so, in terms of evidence, what I had to do is I had to give my phone records over. I had to have character statements. There was also a witness next to me, and me and him the whole shift. So, I had to prove as much as I could, and they believed me, and trusted me and took my word. And also, within the investigation, he made like several false statements that they were able to disprove. So, kind of just showed that he was trying to say that I always complain about people and that I'm a malicious nutter, but I'd never complained about anyone in my life. There was no record. Like I even had to ask for help to report him.
Mm.
All these things to try and discredit me, but they were disproved. So he got dismissed. They were like, he can appeal, but we don't have any space for him here, so don't worry, and we'll let you know. Didn't hear anything for about 4 months. Put it to bed. Got on with my life, and then yeah, in March 24, I got dragged out of a busy shift for 5 minutes to tell me, oh, sorry, he appealed. He's already appealed, he's won, and he's being rehired. So I was like, I like couldn't understand. I couldn't understand. So they were like, well, you know, he might try and take us to a tribunal. So, we don't want to pay thousands and thousands of pounds. That would be worse. And I was like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, it doesn't make sense. How can he take the Met to a tribunal for so they've obviously effed up the investigation somehow. I don't know. But anyway, so they said, well, do you want to just meet the guy who rehired him? So I was like, yeah, definitely. So I met the guy who rehired him, and the guy who rehired him is the director of our whole department, the biggest operational command in the UK, two down from Mark Rowley, the commissioner. And I said to him, like, do you not believe me? Did you not believe it, or was it not proven to you? And he said, no, it's still proven. Like, the allegations, we still find them proven what happened. And even if you'd have recorded it, his comments, etc., we still would have rehired him. We just think it's too harsh, and the Vorg and Violence Against Women and Girls and the Casey report have too much influence, especially on the original panel, which were two women and one man from HR. And you can have any opinion you want in the Met, no matter how harmful. It's just when it turns into an actionable act, which I found really irritating because it did turn into an action because he followed me after work. But yeah, so I couldn't understand that. And then,
Couldn't
yeah,
you sue the police for that? Haven't they then
well,
put you in some kind of
yeah,
danger or jeopardy?
well, that's it. Because when they told me he was coming back, I said, okay, so like, what does that mean for me then? Because once that decision had already been made legally, there's nothing that can be done in terms of him coming back. So I said, what's my protection then? And they were like, oh, we don't really know. Like, we'll let you know. He's just on holiday for about a month because he's got all his annual leave that he missed out on when he was dismissed. So we'll tell you soon. And I didn't hear. And then after a month or so, I had to plead with them to say, can you please move me or him to another centre because I can't work with someone like this. And they moved him. So that was like one of the only bonuses from that I could have asked for. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess there's a sort of I don't know if I could sue them just for that, for putting me in danger. I mean, I am suing them for a number of things, but I don't know if just in terms of that, possibly could civilly, like separately, but not in an employment tribunal.
Hmm.
But yeah, so oh,
So you said he followed you home then?
yeah, so after the shift, I made it very, very clear towards the end of the shift, like, don't talk to me, like, move my body language. So it wasn't very approachable. And I waited 10, 15 minutes after work to avoid clashing with him outside. And before all the comments he made in the shift, we'd had like small talk, like, where do you live? Like, have you got a long journey? And he'd told me that he gets a specific bus opposite the road, opposite to me, and gets one bus straight home to his door. And that's his journey every day. And so when I left, I went to my bus stop, which was opposite, and he was still outside 15 minutes later, fine. And my bus was coming, thank God. So I jumped to my bus and he shouted over the road, when's your bus coming? And I was like, oh, it's here, bye. And I jumped on the bus. And as the bus was pulling off, there was like banging on the bus, as if, like, when people miss the bus, they bang it down. And the doors opened and he got on it and he came in, sat down, and I said, why are you coming this way? Don't you get the number 3 straight home? And he said, no, I'm coming this way tonight. I'm coming your way. So I was like, okay, well, now you're going to have to get, I was like, well, I don't understand why you're coming this way. You're going to have to get like 2 buses and 2 tubes now home. And he was like, I'm coming your way. So he got on my first bus, first tube. And on the first tube, I jumped off after the first stop and got the tube after. But, collectively, with the comments he made about rape victims as sluts, mocking Sarah Everard, there were other sort of behavioral things that he would do. Like, if ever I took a call or my colleague took a call about anything sexual, he would move away from his desk and hover over us and read it on the screen. Or like, we were talking about a celebrity's, I think what they were wearing or something at some point on our break or something like that. And he was like, I'll be the judge of her body. Just like really, really creepy,
Creepy.
creepy, concerning, just really, really horror, like just horror. I
Not
couldn't just
really, not really the caliber of uh human that you would want in a uniform
no,
protecting women and girls and
no,
children
exactly.
and
Or coming, following your, changing their journey home to match yours. And also, I wasn't in the safety, I say, but I wasn't in the familiarity of the office. So it was like Tuesday at 1 a.m. or like at 12 a.m. It was dead on the street. And, I kind of just was being polite because I didn't really know what was going on. And it sort of felt like, and after,
intimidation.
yeah, and after one of the comments, when he made racist comments, I sort of tried to say, like, no, you're being really, really harsh. Like, that's not acceptable. And he turned really angry, like, sort of like, right, fine then. And like, just a really strange switch. And, when the incident after work happened, I just wanted to keep the situation neutral and fine and polite and easygoing because I wasn't in
I
a
think the word
familiar.
you're looking for is de-escalation.
Exactly. That is the word for sure. Um, and yeah, I was able to get off. But yeah, and it's just funny because when they rehired him, they said, it's only words, it didn't escalate, but well, it did, and they just didn't take that into account. They said the incident after work couldn't legally be counted as anything because it happened that one time. So with harassment, it has to show a pattern of behaviour. And this is where a lot of victims get let down, when they've been on the
Well,
back end of,
it just it baffles me that you can get a knock at the door at 3 a.m. by the police over a Facebook post. They're only
yeah,
words.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
by their own
exactly.
logic,
Yeah, exactly. It's very much um, one rule for all and one rule for the officers and staff. But yeah, no, exactly that. It's it's bizarre.
have you
And
found over the last since 2020 that the police reputation has gone down in such dramatic
oh yeah, I mean
numbers?
it was terrible anyway. But since 2020, and I would say since Sarah Everard, um, yeah, it's just gone. It's just I it's irreparable. And, that's where it comes into my stance of where the Met needs to be. Well, Scotland Yard and the Met need to have external intervention. Yeah, there's no fixing that reputation. And yeah, so,
And
but,
it
there
seems too
was,
deep. It seems too deep to just be pure, what's the word? Where they're just not capable. It seems more than that. It seems
it
like it's
is
more like a problem reaction solution kind of scenario.
exactly, it's not that they're not capable, it's that they don't want, they don't even want to be capable in that way. Like there's so many concerning things within policing that actually enable this cycle of scandal failure. There's no actual change to, and they can do all these a new Met for London, we're going to change and we're going to do better. Well, most of it is lies.
Mm.
Zero tolerance approach to discrimination. My case is an example that it's not. It's just lip service and it's performative and it's a circus and it's just to please the public, to simmer it down after a scandal or after a report so that the public are just like, okay, yeah, or the government, okay, fine, like you'll try to do better, give you a couple of years, and then it all goes over and over again. And it's boring.
It
And
is.
I always say like the public, I would say the government, but they're just crap as well. But the public almost need to do better as well instead of just being shocked and horrified and then moving on.
Hmm.
Like there has to come a point where no, like we
We
actually
take
we actually need
action.
change exactly. Because it's what's that saying where it's like fool us once, you're a fool, and fool us twice, who's the fool? Like we are. And we keep being on the receiving end of these scandals from the police. And it's like at some point I start to think the public looks stupid now because we're just accepting it. Like we
Mm.
don't take enough action. And but yeah, I mean it does go deeper.
How do we go about that though? Because I mean, I've attended where the police have turned up and they have helped with bailiffs
Mm.
when they should actually only be there should the breach of the peace
Keep the
occur.
peace, yeah.
The one where we filmed in Thetford, it was the police themselves that declared breach of the peace. Well, sorry, but the police have to remain impartial. So
Yeah.
how they could do that is beyond me. But you can reasonably force a civil arrest if you see an unlawful arrest. And that sounds all good on paper, but when you try and imply that
Mm.
and put that to
Yeah.
power, it
Yeah.
doesn't end up too well. So how
No.
do we overcome this?
I think I think there needs to be pressure on. So I don't think the Met and Scotland Yard are capable of. I don't think we should leave it in their hands anymore to be able to make their service better or change. I think what needs to happen is the only thing that can happen that's kind of peaceful and legal is, mass protests to the government to take external intervention. Um, I think there needs to be an independent body that sorts out misconduct within policing. It shouldn't be internal. That's really bizarre. Like, why would we let police mark their own homework? That's how corruption and things are covered up, and change will never happen.
Mm.
And the Home Office are complicit in that because I've written to them so many times, going through all the legislation where there's loopholes and actual harm. And they've said and the Home Office have their own specific guidance. In terms of police misconduct, that's like focus on reputation rather than misconduct. It's so like bizarre, and they've said, and I've said, you need to consider banning professional internal standards departments. It's not accountable. It's not transparent. And they said, no, that would undermine the policing's ability to police themselves. And also it's how they keep in touch with society and where they're going wrong.
But isn't
And
that a dangerous thing though? The police policing themselves.
exactly. And it's an absolute lie because you can have an independent body and not the IOPC because that's not independent, but you can have an independent body that investigates misconduct full of lawyers and specifically trains civilians in misconduct and not ex-officers and ex-staff, police staff. And they can unbiasedly investigate misconduct but also report back to the force where they're going wrong. The force don't have to be in control of their own misconduct to know where they're going wrong. It's just an absolute lie. And the government are not a fan of it because once you open up that can of worms of, right, we need an independent body for policing, then it's, well, we need an independent body for government and we need an independent body for media. And, when that happens, then it all falls down. So,
Mm.
yeah, it's crazy. But, my case went so much deeper after the guy rehired, after the director rehired the guy I reported. I escalated my concerns about him, and then that was buried for 5 months, and I was being ping ponged, and just it wasn't until I actually left the Met that well, I started speaking out online 3 months before I left, but I had to like subtly say I work in emergency services. I couldn't say the Met because they have a policy which is like you can't talk about us badly online, or put us in disrepute, which is a silencing tactic. Um,
Well, they
so
are scared of accountability.
they really, really are. And it's so ironic because that's in their policing principles and values. It's like compassion, integrity, professionalism, accountability, owning up to when you're wrong, admitting when you've made a failure, and learning. It's so ironic. But yeah, and then when I actually left the police, I was able to name the Met, and yeah, spent sort of since January till about August speaking out. But at the end of August, I was like, well, I've been speaking out about it. The Met are just silent. The government don't want to know. Media's covered it a tiny bit, but it's just a hot storyline. Like people forget, and also a lot of I've got a really trusted, lovely journalist who got my story out there, who's the only one that cared, and he reported it as it was. He didn't twist it, but then you had, once that came out in the Telegraph, you had other papers jumping on that headline and they were twisting it, and they were putting like pictures of me up next to a headline saying call handler calls a rape victim a slut, and making it look like I had done it, and all this careless reporting, and that was back in March. But yeah, so it got to the end of August and I just thought, right, I'm speaking out and I'm trying to protect the public more than the Met have done. How can I gatekeep these individuals' names and pictures? Like, it seems wrong for me to tell people half the story and not
Mm.
the individuals involved. And I've always found it really gross that when you're being dealt with by police, you almost don't get a say in who's dealing with you, and you don't know anything about that person. And I find that really violating. Because when I was going through reporting the colleague that I did, he was allowed to just continue taking reports, and I just thought it's so violating for those people who don't even realize that a misogynistic, racist predator is literally dealing with your most vulnerable moments in life. And so yeah, I just, a couple of, maybe a month ago, I just released their pictures and their names, and I'm so glad I did, even though I was very worried about any legal implications. But yeah, I'm so glad I did, because then people were coming forward to me from their previous workplace. People were coming forward to me in the Met after my incident. Um, People, I found out that the director who rehired him is actually still involved in legal dealings with, being accused of being racist and ableist in his previous workplace. And it's like, oh my God, the Mets hired someone to be the head of the biggest operational unit who's still legally being investigated for racism and disability discrimination. Like, it's bizarre. And I'm so glad I
I
did,
think you have to be
because
part of a club.
I think so. And, I have been told by several people that it's funny because the original guy that I reported, his dad was high up in the Navy and had Met
I
police
was
contacts.
thinking more of Freemasons.
Yeah. Well, this could be it too. Most likely. But yeah, he had contacts and whatever. Maybe that had a part to play. And yeah, I don't know, but it's and it's my whole experience has just shown the higher you get in policing, the accountability just disappears. Whenever you're trying to hold someone accountable that's high up, it puts a lot of people in awkward positions and they don't want to act. And also, there is no accountability mechanism for policing, because say you have an experience with the police and you want to report it, and you don't like what's happened, or something dodgy is going on. You report it to the police, they deal with it themselves. they give you just like this outcome. No, 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 sorry, there's nothing wrong, blah, 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 as they would to cover it up. Right. So what have you got next? You've got the IOPC. Okay, you go to the IOPC. Initial first step for an IOPC is to refer it back to the force that you're complaining about so they can deal with it again from the IOPC. And the only way that the IOPC will actually intervene is if that force self-refers themselves to the IOPC, or if it's like a massive, like Sarah Everard or something like that.
Like
Um,
just huge coverage that they can't really just brush under.
Exactly. So the IOPC are useless. You go to the government then, or you go to your MP, and when you go to the MP, they'll say it would be inappropriate for me to intervene in policing matters or personal investigations. Great. Okay. MP can't help. You go to the Home Office. It would be inappropriate for us to intervene in personal investigations or intervene in policing matters, as it would undermine their ability to police. Then there's nothing. Like there's actually no
Mm.
mechanism to hold the police accountable. Um, it's so worrying.
And the same goes for MPs,
Yeah,
and
exactly,
it's across the
exactly.
board.
It is. It is across the board, exactly. And that's why, like, my organization and my sort of campaigning, as much as it's policing, it's very much targeted to public services and
Mm.
emergency services, services that are there to protect us and look after us. Um, yeah, it's incredibly worrying.
What
But
reforms
yeah.
do you, what reforms would you say are absolutely non-negotiable if the Met was to ever regain the public trust again?
So I think, I mean, I don't know if they could do it, but I think they should. Like, I don't know. I think this needs to be nationally, like with all police
Hmm.
forces, and I think it needs to come from government. But I think to regain any type of trust in policing, which is going to be really hard, you need to have that independent body that investigates misconduct. I'm also pushing for a police misconduct register. So, as a member of public, if you're ever being dealt with by a police officer or police staff member, and maybe you just want to know, or you've got a funny feeling, or the officer's treating you a little bit strange, or the staff member's being a bit funny, and you just have a strange feeling and you just want to know, you can request the misconduct history of that officer or request to know if they're currently under investigation. So you have complete autonomy, the word, or complete right. And
Transparency.
yeah, transparency and also some sort of control in who's helping you, because clearly we cannot trust the police to just hire decent people. So if they can't do that, then they need to give a little bit of that control back to us and be completely transparent. So I think a register needs to happen, just like they have in nursing and many other services, where you can access misconduct history. And a lot of people will say, oh, well, you've got the police barred list. Yes, that's people who've been barred from policing from gross and dismissed from gross misconduct investigations. But what about all the officers that, there was an officer the other day who squeezed another female PC's private parts from behind. And he got reflective learning practice on boundaries. So that's not published anywhere, and he's still
It is
serving.
very
So
much a case of, and I'm pretty sure this was in Brave New World or 1984, I can't remember, but bad behavior is just rewarded as good and vice versa. We
exactly,
live in a weird, weird time.
it's very, 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 very strange. Yeah, and there is, there needs to also be amendments to legislation and guidance. There are very problematic statements within legislation. You have, there's so many different things, but there's no when you have an appeal, if someone's been dismissed and they want to come back. This is for policing staff and officers. There's no real clear regulation that the person chairing that should be from another department. So sometimes you can have people who are the top of your own department chairing your hearings, and that's so inappropriate
Mm.
because they're privy to what skill set you have, how important you would be to the Met. It's so inappropriate. There are
It's
other
just
things
too
in the home.
personal.
Exactly. And there are other things in the Home Office guidance and the College of Policing where it's like focus on reputation rather than the level of misconduct, especially when you're doing the harm assessment. And it's so harmful because like you have, for example, there's a PC, I always say it because it's like my case study that was published on the Met Police a couple of months ago. PC Vicente kept sending unsolicited private pictures to female officers without consent. They didn't want them and kept pursuing relationships even though they said no. He was just given a warning because they deemed it as low risk and low harm because it was in a private WhatsApp group and it wasn't privy to public knowledge. Forgetting any type of element of harm that he's done to the officers, the misconduct itself, like they're just focusing on public reputation and if the public know, that is so harmful. There's also a lot of weight to, I mean, I don't think they should give weight to mitigating circumstances. I don't think you should be able to, there's a lot of it, oh, the officer's very remorseful or the blah blah's very remorseful.
No, he was
It,
remorseful that he got found out.
exactly. It's too risky to just be like, oh, he said sorry, so maybe we should just be a bit nicer. No,
I
it
think it's
shouldn't be
because
like that.
I think it's because those in the higher echelons, I think they're corrupted.
Yeah,
There's something going on up there which is stopping them
definitely.
from doing it down here.
100%. And as time has gone on, and especially in the last couple of months, I've realized, and I'm trying to alter my content and campaigning that, I always used to say like the Met is corrupt to the core. It's Scotland Yard, it's all the senior leaders, and it's the boys in suits. And there's a lot of, like there's only a few rotten apples, in policing. Well, there's not only a few, there's quite a decent chunk, and they are,
How would you respond to those that say there's just a few bad apples when your own case shows the system itself
yeah.
overturns discipline and silences whistleblowers?
Exactly. I would say that most of the time, the people who are going to say that are most likely serving officers, ex-officers, or staff members. And I think that's a very transparent way of showing that you were probably one of the ones who either were complicit in it or don't think there's anything wrong in it.
Mm.
And a few bad apples it really, really, really actually makes me so angry when people say that because you can't have any rotten apples in the policing. Yeah, fine, have a rotten apple in retail or in life, fine. But in policing, when you're in charge of people's welfare and safety, this is not acceptable. And it's almost a way, it's a shutdown technique. It's like it's just a few rotten apples, like it's not everyone, like don't worry about it, like it's not that bad. Well, yeah, it's one. What do they say? Like one rotten apple is too many, and
Hmm.
one rotten apple.
It's
There's
enough to
oh,
spoil a bunch.
exactly, and there was something else someone else said where it's like it's until there are no rotten apples, they're all rotten apples.
Hmm.
And also I think a lot of people forget. Yes, you have rotten apples, terrible officers and staff who do terrible things, but a lot. I always say this, and it is a reflection of society. You have good people and you have bad people, but the majority are just indifferent. And that is very reflective in policing. You have really good, decent officers and staff, really bad officers and staff. And then you have the majority, which will just sit there, think they're really good. And yeah, maybe they do good things, but they're indifferent and they don't stand up to it. And I
The
can't
world,
understand it.
exactly. The world isn't in a bad place because of the evil that's in it. It's because of the good people that stand by and just watch it
And
happen.
just watch it happen. Yeah. And it's bizarre because that's what policing is, advocating for people who don't have a voice and standing up to wrongdoing and protecting people. At least that's what I thought it was. Now I
Mm.
realize you're just like a guardsman for the government. But it's yeah,
But on
it's
the positive side, though, you've launched Speak Up Now UK
yeah,
to help other whistleblowers. So how does
yeah.
it feel to turn something so destructive into a good platform for change?
It's really, really yeah, I'm it's therapeutic for me
Hmm.
to make sure that other people are not suffering like I did, or I can at least help them and direct them. And yeah, it is a positive out of such a negative. It's heavy, but it's needed, and I know I'm the perfect person to do it because I am livid at the whole situation. And if it happens to like I get thousands and hundreds of messages a day of people in the same boat as me at different stages of it. And it's heartbreaking and it makes me so cross. And I'm just going to make it my life's
Mm.
goal that I'm going to stop this. And
If you could,
yeah,
if you could speak directly to another call handler or constable right now who sees wrongdoing but is afraid to speak up, what would you tell them?
first of all, it's easier said than done. I get it. And
Hmm.
there are so many different reasons why you would be scared, whether that's losing your job, retaliation. I get it. But, and I don't, and it sounds harsh, but it's not harsh. If you are in a policing role and you are proud of being part of the police and you want to be a decent police officer or a staff member, you have to speak out. You can do it carefully. You can just email a duty officer and you can do it, uh, as you don't have to make a big song and dance of it and argue with the person right then and there. There are subtle ways you can do it. And what I would always say is take external advice. Like go to advocacy groups and organizations that are not part of the union or part of your police force, because they will give you biased information and they will hinder anything they can to stop your course of holding them accountable. So always seek external advice, and make sure you have a support network around you. And if you don't, come to organizations like mine. And it's so incredibly liberating when you do speak out, because when you experience or witness wrongdoing and you just hold it in, the burden's with you. And when you share it and you give it to the people that are supposed to deal with it, you will feel that weight go. And I just don't know how anyone can stay in policing and just not stand up to wrongdoing. You know, I understand there are so many different reasons why you don't want to, and the retaliation is terrible. Most times I've been on the receiving end of terrible retaliation, but at the end of the day, can you live with yourself if you just witness wrongdoing and just let it happen? I don't know. And it's so ironic because I've got an advocacy group and this organization and I want to help people, but I am actually so bad at advice.
See,
And
I'm really good at advice. I'm just
oh,
really shit at taking my own advice.
oh no, I'm kind of similar. But I guess my advice is not the most not the politest advice, but it's you have to. You have
Yeah.
to. And I'm hoping, with Speak Up Now UK, we're a little bit different. We will be able to give financial grants to people who are, if they lose their job, legal advice, counselling, media assistance, so that, you don't have to just be catapulted into this unknown experience of what's going on. And, there are more and more, the more we make it a norm to speak out, the less of a thing it will be. Like, I've never
Yeah.
understood why whistleblowing is called whistleblowing. Like, that should be the norm. And then to not whistleblow should be a name.
Mm.
Um, but
Everything's in
yeah,
reverse. Everything's
it
backwards.
is.
Everything's
It is.
backwards.
It
And
it really is.
finally, what's your message to the Metropolitan Police leadership if they're watching this interview right now?
Ugh, well, politely, if I
However,
can.
however you want. I'm going to mute myself, so you've got the floor. Go for it.
Like, you're just absolutely, you're the rats of our society. And I will do everything I can until you stop me, if you do, to hold you account. And for every misconduct hearing that is botched and for every scandal that comes out, I will be a human blob of accountability, protesting outside your offices, protesting outside Parliament, protesting on social media, making noise, exposing pictures, names. And until you stop me, if you try to, which you shouldn't, because I'm very clever and I can work around laws just like they can, um, I will forever hold them accountable. If the government won't do it, I'll do it. And I'm the perfect person to do it because I don't have anything to lose. And the Met, you have tried to take away my friendships. You've banned people from coming to my organisation. You intimidate your staff from communicating with me. You have you've breached so many laws, and you've let the public down and you've let victims down. And to Bibba and Nicole and Sarah, everything you do is a massive slap in the face, and it's revolting that you stand there in uniform. And I will make sure that every one of those rotten apples are binned.
I know more.
Mm,
Well, Izzy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you
thank
on,
you.
listening to
Thank you.
your story. Thank you very much. Please
Thank
do
you.
keep in contact. Please keep me updated
Definitely.
as to what's going on. I will leave all your links in the video description so people can go and check out your
Thank
website.
you. Thank you.
And good luck with it because it's a battle that needs to be won, is all I can
Oh,
say.
fingers crossed. But thank you so much for having me, and it was lovely to meet you.
My absolute pleasure. And I hope everyone who's watching this has enjoyed it. Please do share it, leave a like and a comment. And until next time, look after yourselves and bye for now.